Hello and welcome to the Transparent Talk podcast. I'm your host, Zach, and we're here today with Jayden Maharaj. Jayden, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. So we already talked a little bit of a prelude before this episode started. So before we get going, do you want to just give a quick bio on yourself, some of the stuff that you've done so far? Obviously, you're a young guy
Yeah,
myself.
absolutely. Yeah. I run a marketing agency. I've been in marketing for about 9 years up to this point. Got started back in 2016 when Pokemon Go was big, selling like
Oh
hats,
my God.
t-shirts, and things like that. And
I forgot
uh,
about that.
yeah, that was like my origin story into this online business stuff.
Okay.
So, had some results there, like made my first sale online, which was a rush I'll never forget. And from there, realized, okay, there's something about this whole online business thing. Dropped out of university. I was in my first year of university at the time. And for the last 8 years, I've been full time in marketing. I've managed at this point, over 5 million in spend across Meta, Google, and a little bit on TikTok as well, and a few different ad
Unbelievable.
channels. And yeah, so that's kind of where the business is at right now. Outside of business, I mean, Zach and I have known each other for a long time. We've been playing soccer since we were like 13
Yeah.
years old. And
Yeah.
so outside of work, I still play a lot of soccer. I like to golf and still live in Vancouver, Canada, not too far, a little bit far, but not too far from Zach.
Yeah. No, we have that center back and goalie connection. If people are listening that play sports, yeah, Jaden's an awesome goalie. Yeah, so we've known each other for a hot minute. I think we met when we were about 15, 16 now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Holy
something.
crap.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
We're gonna start telling stories about us playing soccer when we were 15 years old now.
Yeah. No, I feel old a little bit. Hey. Okay. Well, why don't you start by just telling us what made you get into business in itself? Because I know that when we first met, we both were really geared on being professional soccer players. I know I was,
Yeah,
and I think that was something you and I clicked on initially, just that we were just headstrong, focused, training all the time.
yeah.
I mean, you were more academic than I was per se, but like you were a crazy great athlete. I was just more so focused on the sports, not not any of the school stuff. But do you want to start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like Zach said, we grew up, we played competitive soccer in our teens, and unfortunately, I ran into some injury issues. I had 4 concussions by the time I was 15, and had met with doctors and was told to stop playing at least for a period of time because of the potential risk of more concussions.
Yeah.
Which was heartbreaking for me at the time. Like I was 15, and for the since I was 5, I had been playing soccer, but for the last like few years leading up to that, I was, training every day. I would like went to a nutritionist at 14 so I could like eat well and fuel my body the right way. Like I really was committed to doing whatever I could to play soccer professionally. And so when the concussions happened, it was devastating for me. I had a long period of time after that while I was in high school where I just didn't know what to do. And I ultimately decided, let me go to school for business. I'm interested in business. Let me figure out how I can start a business, and I'll go from there. And so I went to Simon Fraser University here in Vancouver. And after my first year, I was no closer to starting a business. And if you know first year university, it's all like generalized, right? And so you're learning a lot. Like, I had like a philosophy course and a math course and, these things that are not necessarily entrepreneurial related. And so I felt a little bit frustrated. And so, like, at the end of that first year in May, I started looking into how to start an online business and work from home and make money and all of that type of stuff back in 2016. And that's where I came across Shopify and the concept of drop shipping. And it was right around Pokemon Go getting big. And like, there was just like this intersection of business potential and also this trending thing. And I was like, there's got to be a way for me to capitalize on it. And actually, I give a lot of credit to my buddy Cameron. Shout out Cameron if you're watching this. But um, I was out for dinner with this guy and I was just showing him products, and he was like, why don't you just like do this? And so like that day we went home and like just built the Shopify store, spent like 5 hours like doing the themes, importing all the products. And funny enough, the first sale happened 2 days after that. I was on a road trip to Whistler, which is about 2 hours out of Vancouver. Um, and as I'm in the car, I get this cha-ching notification from my phone, and we had someone bought 3 hats. And that was the moment that I think I realized, okay, like this, there's something in this. There's something in this online
What a
business.
rush.
Yeah, that was 9 years. That was over 9 years ago now. So, um, in that
Yeah.
time, like there was something that got ignited, and I
So
just kind of ran with it from there.
that's awesome. So when you first started the store and you were dabbling into the digital marketing world, what did your family think about it? Were they initially supportive of it? Did they think it was a joke? Did you even tell them when you first started? Because at this time they just say he's going to school, right? Like that's you hadn't stopped going to school yet at this point.
Yeah, and that's correct. And I come from an Indian family, and so education is strongly advised, very strongly advised. And so
Yeah.
I had made a little bit of progress with the store, and I was telling my family about it a little bit. I was telling them what I was doing, and like showing them some of the sales, and they were like, "Oh, that's a cool little like side project." And so naturally, like when August rolls around and we're planning on school for the next year, I tell my mom, "Hey, I don't want to go back to school. I want to make this business work." And she was shocked and was not immediately in support of it, and probably not in support of it for a few years. Um, and so there was a lot of resistance. Like, I had a few different family members calling me, asking me what I was doing and like why I was not going back to school, and thinking I'm
Yeah.
crazy, to be honest. And I was just very convinced that the stuff that you were learning, that people were learning in school at that time, with regards to starting a business, it was like completely different than the experience that I had actually running a business in those short few months. And so that's kind of what gave me the courage to say, let's just go for it. That, and also I think my dad is always incredibly supportive, and he was like, look, if this is what you want to do, go for it. I think having that green light was really big to just give me the confidence to go and try and figure it out, even though it was pretty rocky at the start, to be
Yeah,
honest.
that's actually where I want to hold for a second, ask you a couple of things. So, when you're initially starting something, especially when not everybody's on board, they don't necessarily see the vision that you're seeing. Because you talked about the first couple months, you started to see something, you started to imagine that future, what it could be like. How was it in those early days when you're trying to kickstart it all? Like, because I think a lot of people who are potentially listening to this either want to get out of that job or they potentially have a business. Maybe they want to start something else. They're just unsure and they may not have, honestly, even for me, the support wasn't there in the beginning. I think because no one truly understands what you are
Mhm.
except you. So in those initial days when it was just your dad who was supporting you or mainly coming from your dad, what was it that kept you going or what were some of the dark things that you were dealing with then?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that a 9 to 5 job would drive me crazy, and I would just, I don't know, not
I couldn't
perform well in
picture
that
I
environment.
couldn't picture you to 9 to 5. You actually
Yeah,
did
like
work a little bit and
I
then
can't
yeah,
really see myself in a cubicle, and like I just like I never really saw that as my path. And to be fair, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? So I was in the process of like figuring out like what do I like and what do I want to do, and I was still like very unsure because I honestly like I just wanted to play soccer. I still wanted to play soccer, and I couldn't do that. And so it was difficult where I had to basically realize, okay, what what is my life going to look like? And I kind of like saw a few different paths for my life. And I saw the path that I think my parents wanted me to go down, which was, hey, go to school and get a good paying job, and then find a nice Indian girl, and then get married, and then have kids, and then buy a house. Oh, probably buy a house first, but then, get married, have kids. And like I saw that, and there wasn't anything that I saw myself doing in like a 9 to 5 that I was like, oh, that's super fun and exciting. All of the things that I saw as like maybe fun and exciting were things that I knew I wasn't gonna make a lot of money doing. And so that was the other factor is like I was pretty like money focused from a young age. Like when I was young, like I had lemonade stands from when I was like 6, 7 years old. Like I was always trying to like make money. I had a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire themed birthday party when I was like 3. Like who does that type of stuff? You know what I mean? And so I had to, you know, find something that was going to make money. And I'm like, well, if you have your own business, like you can make money. And so, I think I just saw like this path of I was just starting to like see people that like worked online and then lived in Thailand or lived in parts of Asia or, you know, were kind of just like traveling all over. And I thought, wow, that would be really cool. Like, you know, you can make a few $1,000s a month online and then you can go and travel and live wherever you want. And so that was super attractive to me where I saw this vehicle that, you know, at the time was like super underdeveloped, like online marketing in 2016 versus where it is now. It's just
Yeah.
like the industry has grown so much. Um, but having said that, it was something where when I was getting into it back then, I saw the potential of, okay, this is where this could go. And it was just something new. And I think having something new to like learn was interesting to me. Like I was very interested in learning about business. And it was filling in a lot of the gaps that I felt like I had from like my traditional education at
Yeah.
university.
Well, here's the thing that I find interesting when talking about just like an average person or someone that has that work ethic that's trying to figure it all out. So initially for me, I mean, you know my story and stuff. It was hard to figure it out. And I think for you, you're saying the same sort of signals, but you found that vehicle. Now, a lot of people, like when I would read books or listen to other people talk about figuring out what you want out of life, a lot of people either say, pick a job that you want to be like what job would you love? And typically most jobs people don't love,
Yeah.
or pick what you're good at. So
Mhm.
it kind of just levered between the two, and no one really got a for sure answer
Mhm.
on what that is. You're saying that your avenue that you took was say, okay, well, I want to do all these fun things. I just need money. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, do you want to talk about that and then maybe how that's transitioned over the years? Because that was how you started. Now, obviously, things became more aligned as you went. But what's your thought process for someone that is in that position where they're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I don't want to work here.
Yeah, yeah. I think you gotta get clear on what you want your life to look like, whether that's now or in 10 years from now. And ideally, you start thinking about your life down the line. Like, you know, over the last like 8, 9 years, like because entrepreneurship is also like the best personal development that you can do. Um, Getting into business, I started thinking about, okay, well, what do I want like my life to look like? Like if I keep doing this, where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And you know, naturally I wrote like, oh, I want to make like $200,000 a month and like, you know, be like balling and all the stuff that you think about when you're like 17, 18.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think the biggest thing was just like I asked myself, what do I want my life to look like? And at that time it was, hey, I want to have control. Like I want to control, I want to choose when I work, I want to choose when I don't work. I want to be able to, you know, travel to beautiful places. I want to be able to work remotely. Um and so those were like the first things that like really captured my interest. And so I think, you know, that first step of like getting my business to the point where, you know, I could travel and like I could live in certain parts of the world based off of the money I was making. Like that was kind of like that first step, I guess you could say, of, hey, what am I looking to create here?
Yeah, so one thing I wanna highlight there is it really sounds like, yeah, the marketing, that stuff was the vehicle, but the gasoline, the thing that actually fueled you to make that vehicle move was the idea of being able to travel, the idea of being able to work from home, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if you're out there and you're wanting to start something, it's great, you have a vehicle, there's lots of different vehicles, you can go to any car lot, there's tons. You can go to a whole street and drive past, like, 8. But it's really about the fuel. So like initially, like what are you going to get started with? And then I think it changes. So how did it change for you? Because you did end up traveling, you did
Mhm.
end up doing quite well with your business, and you've done a lot of different things actually in business. And so what happened through those kind of years?
That's a great question. So it started my traveling started in probably 2018, 2019. And it was pretty small. It was mostly trips to like Mexico and the United States. And I did one trip to Thailand in 2019 as well. And it was only for a couple of weeks, just like a trip with friends. It wasn't necessarily like oh, I have like my lifestyle business and I can like work. And it was funny. I was in Thailand trying to work, and sometimes I would go to a cafe that had like no Wi-Fi. And then other days I would just be completely thrown off because the time zone in Thailand is completely different than the Thailand in Vancouver. And I work with North American clients. And so that time zone is pretty important. And
Yeah.
so like there were a few things that I learned like early in my traveling. And like to be honest, my first goal was like, let me make like $4,000 or $5,000 a month so I can go and live in Chiang Mai in Thailand. And then I went to Chiang Mai and I was like, oh, like I don't know if I'd actually want to live here for like three,
Why?
4 months of the year.
Well, why don't you talk about it a little bit?
I
Yeah.
mean, I think the two biggest things, and part of it was maybe the time that I visited, it was really hot. It was like 40 degrees every day.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but to be fair, I think it was a bit of a drought that they were in. I don't think it's always that hot, but like my experience was it's really hot here. Number one. And number two is it's landlocked. So like there's not really any like body of water nearby. There's like a little canyon that's like a half-hour drive away maybe. But it's landlocked. Like you're just in like, and it's not like a huge city either. It's a pretty small city or town, I guess you could say. And so I experienced that. I was like, okay, that's probably not the place for me. Um, and then to be honest, COVID was the thing that kicked off a lot of the travel as well.
Yes. Yes, it did.
To where the first year, like kind of beginning of 2021, I did a month in Mexico. And that was like this thing of, okay, well, let me go. It's cold in Vancouver in January. And we had pretty strict lockdowns at the time, right? Where you were basically just at home all the time. And because I knew I was healthy and safe and all of that stuff, I was like, okay, well, my business can run from anywhere. And would I rather be in Vancouver where there's 16 hours of darkness in the day, or would I rather be in Mexico where I'm like a 10-minute walk from the ocean and I can get street tacos for like $7 whenever I want, basically. It's not like I was making like a crazy amount of money back then, but I was making enough to get my own place in Vancouver and not buy a place, to clarify, because
Yeah.
that's a whole different amount of money. But I
Yeah.
was able to rent a place in Vancouver, and like I had a comfortable lifestyle. And so
In those days, if you don't mind me asking, what did business look like for you? Like, what were you doing to kind of get that, 4, 5, 6 grand a month range?
Yeah, so I had just a handful of clients, and that shifted over, I would say, 2017 when I started the agency to 2021. 2017 to the beginning of 2020, I worked a lot with kind of like local organizations. Like I did the ads for like some bars and yoga studio, and as I was working especially a lot in the home security industry
Mhm.
in the US. And to be fair, I did a lot of work with US clients because they pay in US dollars. And so
Yeah.
you're doing the exact same thing, but you get paid 35% more. And also your ads usually get better results because US people in the US typically buy more stuff. So anyways, I was doing home security and like, those alarm systems and kind of like the Ring doorbells. And then COVID hit, and then everyone was just at home all the time. And so like 80% of my income or revenue at the time just like completely disappeared. It was at that time that I was like, okay, I need to kind of transition more into the online space and less working with physical businesses, because that was just, it was dead. So around then is when I transitioned more into the online space. Like I had worked with a few like online coaching businesses at the time. But then in 2020, there was a brief period of time where I sold, math packs and SEO and that sort of thing. But that was like a very short amount of time. And then I quickly transitioned into, let me just run ads for some of these
Yeah.
online businesses. And so at that time, I had a few online businesses that I was running ads for, or I was involved in, coaching in the marketing department in some way. So I had like, I think 3 or 4 clients.
Yeah, there was a huge opening of what do you call them? Online coaches and courses that just all of a sudden, like, I feel like
Exploded.
it
It
exploded.
exploded. Yeah.
Now it's sort of streamlining a bit. I do think it's more prevalent now than ever, but I feel like it's not as common. I mean, I don't know, you tell me, but, like, I feel like there's sort of a dip. There's so many different options with courses and stuff, which is also gonna be one of my questions to you is, like, if someone was to get started, like,
Yeah.
where do you think they should look and try and where should they try to avoid looking?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for you, c in that time period, it was great to partner with them, I imagine, and then yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to reflect on kind of what has happened in the online space and like there's always like expansions and contractions in this industry, but like 2020 was like an explosion that led to like all of these coaches that like honestly had no idea what they were doing, building these $1 million businesses like overnight because people were just like at home all the time and
Mhm.
also like a lot of people were getting stimuluses as well and they had money to spend and interest rates were low and so people were just spending and then that happened until about 2023 when the market became a lot more everyone just got burned by someone at that point and then interest rates went up and so people just didn't have as much money to spend and so a lot of people really over the last like 2.5 years have like gone out of business or have considerably shrunken their business as a result of that. But I know that's not exactly answering your original question. So, why don't you ask that again?
Yeah, so, like, if so basically, how I think about it is a lot of people obviously wanna upgrade themselves, whether that's personal or whether that's heading towards business. Now with the high level of amount of people that are drawing courses and YouTubers and all that stuff, if you were to give advice to somebody that wanted to, like, let's say, get to know marketing or start their own agency, let's just
Mhm,
say, or even just a business in general, doesn't necessarily have to be marketing. Is
mhm.
there anything that you would say to help to avoid certain things and platforms or certain types of calls to action that maybe kind of come up from like your perspective? Like when you're looking for courses and to kind of upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, like if you're new and you're just trying to get into the industry, YouTube is so good. Like the level of content on YouTube, like I wouldn't even say start with a course. I would start with like people have 8-hour free courses on YouTube that are really good quality because that's a part of their business
Mhm.
model is to get people in with free value, which is honestly a
I
great model.
totally agree. I totally agree.
I would be starting with I'd be starting with YouTube videos and I would be starting with free school communities as well. I mean, if you pay like 30-50 bucks a month for a school community, that's not bad because you can get questions answered and like for 50 bucks for a month to get like 7, 8 important questions that you have answered, that could save you like 10-15 hours. But even if that saves you 2 hours, you know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
probably worth the $50 that you're going to invest in that.
Yeah.
Uh, and then and so yeah, like I would say go to YouTube, go to school and just be a sponge. Just consume and absorb and learn as much as you can. Those school communities are great as well because then you're in an environment with other people that are trying to do the same thing as you. Uh,
Yes.
so
That
that's 100% where I would start.
I
And
totally
then and then it depends what you want to do. Like there's a lot of directions you can go uh within marketing. And so like that would depend on what you're looking to do. Like the expert for if you're trying to do websites and SEO is different than if you want to scale like a paid ads business. And then paid ads even like you have like your YouTube ad people and then your meta ad people and so there's a lot of nuance and that's why if you're just getting started, it can be incredibly overwhelming and your
yeah.
best place to start is just YouTube and school and just see like, hey, do I like the idea of like content creation? Do I like the idea of paid ads? Do I like the idea of email marketing, of,
Mhm.
websites, like whatever that might be? I think that is the biggest thing where if you're starting, you just need to like immerse yourself in the industry,
Yeah.
see what pops up for you, and then just start working, just start taking action because you're not going to know what works or what doesn't until you have enough experience. And you can only get that experience from moving and taking action.
So while you were moving during this time period, you ended up seeing a lot of amazing clients and you build your skill set pretty high. So now you end up working with a lot of different people, which we'll talk about towards the end. But
Mhm.
like, where did that take your journey? Because obviously in the beginning, you're not making that much. You're kind of still like trying to prove the concept that you can do it. You're breaking it, you're at maybe 5, 6 grand a month. Now you're like starting to pump up some higher numbers, especially since most of your clients are US, which
Mhm.
is a very great choice, at least monetarily. You can get in that US dollar in comparison to the Canadian dollar is nice. So when that change started to happen, like when was that? And what did that do for your mindset and your business? Because obviously you mentioned it's a personal journey. So like
Mhm.
when you started to see a little bit more money, now you have some clients, you got a lot of extra work to do. How did you deal with that initially?
Yeah, so it was a lot of my beliefs that had to shift, to be honest. Had beliefs up until probably 2021 that like the most you could charge a client is like $4,000 a month, or maybe even $5,000 a month. Or at least for me, maybe other people could do that, but like I didn't feel like I could do that. And so like I had to improve my own personal insecurity because I felt insecure, even though I had managed millions of dollars in spend and like made my clients way more than that. And
This
so
is huge.
that was probably the biggest thing that had to shift for me was like I had to feel more worthy that I deserve to be paid more. And so like that happened right around the time that me and a friend of mine partnered up, and we can maybe go into that. But then we started selling higher price packages, which reflecting on it still wasn't high enough price for what we were delivering. But that was the first time I had sold something that was like six, seven, $8,000 a month for services, or $3,000 a month for like just consulting, like doing one call a week. That was like a foreign concept to me until about 20 mid 2021 into 2022.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to highlight there is the beliefs. So I deal with the same thing. Every owner that I work with, they talk about beliefs as well. And I find that in your experience, you're saying because it's a personal journey, these beliefs are really limiting sometimes. And I think a lot of people, I like to think about it like no matter if you own a business or not, you do own a business, you own yourself, right? So it's
Mhm,
you incorporated. What are
mhm,
you going to do to either better yourself or grow in your own personal way? It's not always about starting a business. In your case, the business really highlighted these beliefs that were holding you back, I
mhm.
imagine, right? So when you're talking about maybe to someone that's like, "Oh, I'm not worthy of starting a business," or maybe someone that's has a business that's in a similar position as you were then, how do you break those limits, or what were some of the strategies you did to break that?
Yeah, so fuck, I spent a lot of oh sorry, I'm not sure.
No, no, you can swear. You're good. You can fucking swear.
Oh, okay. Well, for emphasis, I swore, but it's been a long journey to be completely honest. I have invested like tens of thousands of dollars in, well, probably over 100,000 to be honest, outside of the business. Like I've invested probably 100,000 or more into the business as well. Yeah, definitely 100,000 or more into the business. I've also invested over 100,000 into like my own personal development, whether that was, book. Well, obviously books aren't that expensive, but like,
$100,000 worth of
that's a
books.
lot of books.
That
That's
would
a
be
lot of
a
books. No, I don't read that much. I like reading. I don't read that much. But it was more like I started going to retreats. I hired multiple business coaches. I started going to different events. I started traveling more often to network with people. And so a lot of the retreats and like the coaching that I went to was around the entrepreneur, not the business. And so I think that's one thing that I've learned is like the business is usually not the biggest issue for people that run a business. The usually 80%, and the 80/20 rule. So I'd say like 80% of
wait,
the
for those
issue.
for those who don't know 80/20, do you mind just saying it really quick?
Yeah, yeah, it's basically the concept of, 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your actions. So, let's say you're, I don't know, like running a business and you spend 20% of your time generating leads. Like that's probably the 80/20 in your business is like, hey, just spend more time finding leads.
Yeah.
Or if
It
you run a
works.
business,
Yeah, it
yeah,
works across almost everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
not just business, but life as well. Like, there's 20% of what you do in your relationship that makes 80% of the difference. And it's like, how can you do that 20% more or better or like focus more into that?
I
So,
love that.
and then cut out all the other shit. And so I think it took a lot for me, to be honest. It was a lot of, yeah, like working with coaches and going to events and like,
Yeah.
my own journaling and meditation and my own spiritual practices. And at the same time, I think there are like a couple of things that start to show up. And for me, I was always like a very high performer, high achieving type of person. And so as a result, that usually meant that like I got my worth and my worthiness from what was going on in the business or how much I was working and all these like superficial things. When I think the biggest thing that I learned is you're already enough. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to, you're not going to be enough when you make $100,000. You're not going to be enough when you buy that house or you buy that car. You're not going to be enough when you have that girlfriend because then there's going to be something else. And so I think the biggest thing, if you're in that position where like you want to start a business and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, like you can. You can. It's your own head that's telling you you can't do it. Are you gonna? I'm not saying you're not gonna fail. Everybody's gonna fail. Everybody's gonna fall on their face. Everybody's gonna run up into a wall that they can't seem to climb over or get around. Everybody is going to experience that. But the biggest thing is those people at least are getting out there and trying it and taking that action and then dusting themselves off and continuing. And
Yeah.
if your beliefs put you in a position where you hit the wall and you're like, oh, I hit the wall. I suck. I'm such a piece of shit. Oh, why did I do that? I'd be better off getting a job. I'm going to go call my ex. You know what I mean? Like if those are the type of things that happen to you when you hit a wall, that has nothing to do with the wall. The wall is here. You're over here with all this other shit affecting you. And so that's the biggest thing I'd say is
I
like
love that.
when you start to, learn more about yourself and spend more time like meditating and journaling, working with coaches or whatever that journey is for you, you realize that like you have this perception of the world that's looking through us like this glass that's all like murky and stained. And a lot of this personal development is just cleaning the glass because you have all of these beliefs from your entire life that affect your ability to perceive the events around you. And so the more that you can kind of clean that glass, the more that you can just see that, oh, this is just a wall that I hit. Let me try to go around it or let me
Yeah.
try to go over it. Like there's nothing personal about it. It's just your own beliefs or your own things that are going to prevent you from playing the game. And
So
that's the biggest challenge is most people have something that happens and it's happened to me too and I'm kind of going through something similar that relates to this where something happens and you lose this momentum wherein there's nothing wrong, there's nothing for you to feel bad about, there's nothing for you to feel like a piece of shit about. It's okay, you're fine and you're enough and you're loved. You just need to keep going and do the things that you need to do.
that's awesome, man. And I think it actually bridges really well on the question I wanted to ask you related to this, which is for people that don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend on their self-development and they're kind of stuck with this belief problem. What are some of the things or tools that you've picked up? Obviously, I can put stuff in the show notes and if there's actual like external links that people need to go to or anything. But for you personally, like, is there anything that you were like, okay, these are the top things that I got from all of this that if I could have told myself, I maybe could have saved myself the trouble of going to all these things. Obviously, going to these excursions, events, these business coaches, that's, you know, there's such a high value in it that you can't necessarily replace it just by a quick tip. But if
Mhm.
you were to have to put maybe a couple things on a piece of paper, what would that be if you had to tell your past self?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I think where I'd start is just like, yeah, what do you want your life to look like? Like go 1 year, 3 years, 5 year, 10 years, even 20 years. As far as you feel like you can go. The further out you go, the better. And just get a very clear picture. Like in your mind, put yourself in that position 10 years in the future. You wake up. What does your home look like? What does your environment look like? What does your partner look like? What do your kids look like? Or what is like just what is going on? What does that world look like? What does that life look like? And just put yourself mentally in that spot and then just start writing. Hey, you know, It's September 18th, 2026 or 2046. Maybe it's in 20 years from now. And, I wake up and, I walk into, this big bathroom that has the more detail that you can put into this, the better, because what this is doing is it's creating a target for you to move towards. Because right now, a lot of people don't have a clear target for what they want and what they're actually moving towards. And you're always trying to move towards a particular target. But the
Mhm.
challenge is when you don't have a clear target, you have a target here, you have a target here, you have a target there, and you're just doing all of these different things that are not unified in moving in one direction.
Well,
So,
here, let me get one point in there because there's something that I've personally struggled with this visualization technique that I've heard and I love, and I totally agree with. There are times it could even be a week from now. You might sit there with a nice journal right now, listen to this, and say, I'm going to go and do that. You
mhm,
go and you set your vision. And then a week from now, something changes. And then you're like, that vision, I don't even want that part. That one part of my vision, I don't want anymore.
mhm,
How do you keep up with it? Because to me, it seems like the ever changing vision, I totally understand it's life and you need to have some kind of target to go for,
mhm,
but the constant adjustment sometimes causes you to be misaligned with that. And I think that everybody struggles with that sometimes. Like,
mhm.
but how do you think about that? Or what have you been told in regards to that through your journey?
Yeah, and so when you say like, oh, a week later something changes, is that like your 1 year vision or is that like your 20-year vision? Like
I
what do
mean,
you
it could be either. Like if I'm reflecting and I'm like, and I'm looking at this piece of paper I wrote last week, and I'm
Mhm,
like, you know what? I don't want three dogs. I want one.
mhm.
Or I'm obviously trying to come up with something here, but I
Yeah,
do
I got
find
you.
that misalignment happens, and it's like, well, if it continues to happen, I have to stay up to date with this sheet constantly. Am I constantly journaling now every single week, every month? I have to reflect on this. I have kids, I have a job. I can't necessarily reflect on this every day. It's changing constantly. And maybe sometimes you don't even know how you feel about it.
Mhm.
I know it's a loaded question for you. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a great question. And again, so like I would kind of come back to like the 80-20 on this. Is this like the core thing that is changing, or is this like one of the accessories? Like if you see like I know the dog thing is an example, but like, if you're going from, hey, I see myself married to all of a sudden, hey, I see myself living by myself, obviously those are big differences, right? And so that's something that you probably would want to go and like, rewrite out like what that looks like if it's one of these like major rocks. If it's like kind of like an accessory type of thing, like, oh, I saw myself in this house, now I see myself in that house. Those are things that like if you are clear on like what you actually want, all that is just to get it out of your head. There's probably going to be things that change. And so it's just like a frequency that makes sense for you. And that could be, every 3 months you look at it,
So
or every
I
so
love
often.
it.
It
I
doesn't need to be.
That
Yeah.
answers my question. I actually really want to stop you there because there's something I want to talk about here. So when you're doing this and you're trying to figure out what you want, how much do you think friends play into it? Like, because I know a lot of people, especially growing up, you want to tell your high school friends everything, or your partner, your girlfriend, your
Mhm.
spouse, whatever. You want to tell them every single vision you have. What's your thoughts to that? Do you feel like it's something that you should be sharing as you're updating your vision? Is it something that you feel like you should be keeping more or less to yourself? It
Mhm.
like what's your experience with that?
Like sharing your vision with the people around you.
Yeah. Like your close, maybe like your friends, your family, like maybe coworkers as well. Cause I found that in my experience, just to give you a second here, in my
Mhm.
experience, when I worked at the cemetery, I would talk about my vision and just stuff that started to come up in my soul, my heart that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And when I started to talk about this to people, they just either saw the cracks in it or
Mhm.
they poked at the emotional things that weren't fully developed yet. And
Mhm.
I find that even sometimes family members do that.
Mhm.
And for me, my experience, even with looking for partners in the beginning, dating, trying to figure out, I kept it more or less to myself. Now that was
Yeah.
my strategy.
Mhm.
What have you found about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it's something where the level of certainty that you believe in your vision comes into play massively here. So the reason why I say that is because if it's something that you feel like it's still like this fertile thing and it's maybe it's shifting and maybe it's not fully thought out, you I would personally I would be very careful about like who I share that with, because it's something that it's so vulnerable, right? And it's like, and I'm a big vulnerability person personally. Like you know me, like
Yeah.
I'll tell you about everything in my life. Having said that, I think when you're like planting these seeds of like the type of person you want to be and the type of life that you want to live, you have to also recognize some of the people in your environment now aren't going to be in that ideal environment. And so there might actually be friction with sharing it with some of these people that aren't going to be in that place. Now, having said that, if you've created a vision and you feel really good about it, you're like, this is what I want. Like I fully embody this. I feel this, like this is it for me. Then I think it can actually be a really good thing to share with other people for a couple of reasons. Number one is it just makes it more real. I think words have power and have meaning, and like sharing something like that, it definitely has an impact. I think that's one. Number two is if there are people that you care about in your life, this could be like a good friend or a mentor or possibly a partner. I don't know. Personally, like I would think close friend or mentor for myself. I would want to share this with them. And maybe my partner once like at a certain point, I wouldn't want to share with them like week one, month one of dating. But it would be something where I would want like to share that for, one, to make it real, and two, for them to just look at it and be and ideally this is trusted people, and you want them to find the gaps and the cracks, and you want them to be like, dude, like I know you're gonna hate this after 2 days, and then you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, you're right, I am gonna hate that, or it brings up a dialogue, right? And so I don't believe for myself that I have all of the best ideas and all of the best knowledge and all of the best insights. Like I'm a human, we're all human, we all make mistakes, we all oversee things, or just we don't pay attention to certain things. And so I think it can be incredibly valuable to share that with someone else so that you have a little bit of like, am I thinking about this the right way? Am I looking at this the right way? But again, it has to be someone that you have a lot of trust with.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that sums it up really well. I mean, heading towards the end of our call, I usually like to ask people like similar questions about advice for people, but I feel like we've covered a lot of advice for people coming in. Is there anything that you want to specifically talk about, maybe to the audience or about yourself, stuff that just kind of comes to mind that you want to just kind of get off your chest?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what comes to mind for me is just a lot of people have beliefs about what they can and can't do. And so again, I think I'm just going to come back to the beliefs thing here.
Yeah, please.
If you're in a position where there's something that you want to do, but then there's like, oh, I want to do this, but this, and this, and this, and there's like whatever reasons. Usually, those are things that look like they might be like real life things happening for sure. And I don't want to take that away from anyone. If you want to do something, but you've got just like some real life shit and you can't do it, that's totally cool. This is speaking more to people that like they've been thinking about doing something, but they're afraid to do it, or they believe that they have certain beliefs about, oh, I'm not the right type of person for this, or I'm not qualified enough, or I don't know enough, or they've had an idea and they've been sitting on it for like months or years. And the biggest thing I would say is just taking that first step is going to cure everything, because either you're going to find out, oh, this doesn't work. And then at least, and you have that peace of mind. Okay. Like I can move on from this, or it does work. And then you can take that next step. All you're doing is taking one step. It's not like, I think when people think about committing to something or doing something, like whether that's starting a business or, launching something of their own, and they see it as like this massive commitment. It can be a massive commitment, don't get me wrong, but all you're doing is taking one step. And I think what people think about is like, let's say you're starting a business. Oh, I need to go and buy my domain and build my website and build a landing page. And then, I need to post on social media, and then I need to like have a podcast. And then it's like, no, You just need a client. Just go and like talk to people, go and tell people what you do, and keep talking to people about what you do until you find someone that needs what you do.
I love
And,
that.
like that's all you need to do. Like if you want to start a business, all you need to do is figure out what you want to offer, what do you want to help people with, and then just find people that need it. And whether that's like asking people in your network, in your friends and family, whether that's DMing random people on Instagram or on Facebook, whether that's like sending a bunch of cold emails, whether that's running paid ads, all you need is, hey, I want to help someone doing this thing. And then you just need people that need that thing. And that's it. That's all you need to run a business.
That's beautiful, man. That is the whole staple of the episode. That's awesome. So I want to give you an opportunity to plug yourself as well, because you've given us a lot of value here. Tell us like who is your ideal client? Where can we reach you? Obviously, I'll put the socials and the website, everything that you have, I'll put it in the show notes if people want to go and reach out to you personally. But do you want to just give yourself a, maybe 15, 25-second plug what you do, that kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out my website, jaydenmaharaj.com, if you want to take a look at some of my case studies. If you're a business looking for marketing and you have a budget minimum of $5,000 a month to spend on ads, I would love to help you with your marketing. If you're a younger entrepreneur and you're looking for help on your entrepreneurial journey, reach out to me. I am just launching some coaching services to younger entrepreneurs and people that are just getting into the game. So if you're interested in that, feel free to reach out to me. I'll link, my socials and emails in the show notes.
Well, thank you so much, Jayden. It's been an absolute pleasure. We definitely have to do a part 2 soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doc. Take care. Thanks,
You
everyone.
too.